In the sun-cracked cradle of a humiliated Nile, a people's fury forged the dawn of glory. Around 1550 BC, Egypt, after generations under a foreign yoke, rose from the dust of humiliation to expel the Hyksos interlopers. This wasn't just a victory, it was a rebirth, the violent, breathtaking beginning of its most powerful era, the New Kingdom. Led by pharaohs like Ahmosai and his brother Kamose, the Egyptians didn't just reclaim their homeland, they unleashed a storm of conquest that would reshape the ancient world. With hearts still heavy with the sorrow of occupation, they marched south into the golden lands of Nubia and northeast into the distant horizons of the Levant. This explosion of power wasn't just about revenge. It was a strategic necessity born from a deep-seated fear of ever being invaded again. The Hyksos had shown Egypt its vulnerability, teaching a bitter lesson that the deserts and seas were not impenetrable barriers. The pharaohs of the New Kingdom decided the best defense was a good offense. By creating a buffer zone of conquered territories, they aimed to control the trade routes, neutralize potential threats before they could reach the Nile Valley, and secure the resources needed to fuel their new empire. Gold from Nubia, timber from the Levant, and tribute from vassal states poured into Egypt, funding monumental building projects and a professional army unlike any the world had ever seen. The architects of this new imperial age were a series of warrior pharaohs from the 18th dynasty. After Ahmosai secured the borders, his successors took the fight abroad. Thutmose I campaigned deep into Nubia, farther than any pharaoh before him, and even crossed the Euphrates River into Mesopotamia, leaving a victory stele that shocked the regional powers. But it was his daughter, Hatshepsut, who showed that power could be wielded differently. While she maintained the empire's strength, her reign focused more on trade and magnificent construction, including her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri. After her, her stepson Thutmose III ascended the throne and became what many historians call the Napoleon of ancient Egypt, over the course of 17 military campaigns. He solidified Egyptian control over the Near East, crushing coalitions of rebellious princes at legendary battles like Megiddo. His military genius and administrative skill turned the fledgling empire into a stable, well-oiled machine. The inscriptions of the Karnak temple complex read like a military diary, listing the spoils of war and the cities he conquered. A testament to an empire at its absolute zenith. Under his reign, Egypt's influence was unmatched, its treasury overflowed, and its pharaoh was revered as a living god, a mighty warrior king whose dominion seemed limitless. But what was life like for the average Egyptian during this golden age of conquest? For many, the empire meant opportunity. The professionalization of the army offered a path for social mobility. A common farmer's son could rise through the ranks to become a respected officer, gaining wealth and land. The influx of foreign goods, ideas, and people also made Egypt a more cosmopolitan society. Scribes, administrators, artisans, and merchants found their skills in high demand as the imperial bureaucracy grew. The wealth extracted from conquered lands funded the grand temples of Luxor and Karnak, providing employment for thousands of laborers and craftsmen, whose work transformed the religious and political landscape of the nation. However, this glory came at a tremendous cost. Endless campaigns meant that generations of young men were sent to fight and die on distant frontiers. Families were left to mourn sons lost in the deserts of Syria or the grasslands of Nubia. The very social fabric was strained. As soldiers returned with spoils and captives, a new class of military elite emerged, sometimes challenging the traditional power structures of priests and scribes. Moreover, the empire's vastness created enormous logistical and administrative challenges. Ruling over diverse peoples with different cultures and languages required a complex and often brutal system of control, garrisons, and governors. The whispers of rebellion were constant, and the cost of suppressing them, in both blood and treasure, was a heavy, continuous drain on the kingdom's resources. By the time of Amenhotep III, the empire had reached a peak of diplomatic and economic power. The so-called Magnificent Pharaoh presided over a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Foreign kings from Babylon and Mitanni wrote to him as brothers, begging for Egyptian gold, which they claimed was as common as dust. But this dazzling facade concealed growing internal tensions. Amenhotep's son, Akhenaten, would soon plunge Egypt into religious chaos by abandoning the traditional gods in favor of a single deity, the Aten. This internal turmoil, combined with the rise of new external threats like the Hittites, began to chip away at the foundations of the empire. The New Kingdom was a paradox, an era of unparalleled strength born from a deep-seated vulnerability, a time of immense wealth that cost countless lives, and a golden age of glory whose very success sowed the seeds of its eventual decline. It was an empire forged in the fires of vengeance, built by warrior kings, and sustained by the blood and toil of its people. The story of its rise is a powerful reminder that history is rarely simple. The same forces that drive a nation to its greatest heights, ambition, fear, and the thirst for power, can also lead it down a path of overreach and exhaustion. The majestic temples and tombs that still stand today are monuments not just to the pharaoh's eternal glory, but also to the silent, human cost of their epic conquests. What do you think? Was the New Kingdom's expansion a necessary act of self-preservation or an act of imperial aggression? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into ancient Egypt, be sure to like and subscribe for more.